Okay, you know that fundamental rule of shopping, right? If something gets more expensive, you buy less of it. But what if I told you there's a product out there that completely breaks that rule? A product that people actually buy more of as the price goes up. And not because it's a luxury item, but because they have no other choice. Let's dive into the hunt for one of the strangest creatures in all of economics.
For literally centuries, this thing was considered a myth. An economist once called it the Loch Ness monster of the field. You know, something people claim they saw, but poof, no one could ever actually prove it existed. Well, this is the story of the data detectives who finally went hunting for it.
All right, so to really get why this product is so bizarre, we've got to do a quick refresh on the one basic rule of shopping that it just completely shatters.
It's called the law of demand. And you already know it, even if you don't know the name. It's super intuitive. When the price of your favorite coffee goes up, you might buy it a little less often. When flights get pricey, fewer people travel. Higher price equals lower demand. Simple, right? It pretty much runs the world we live in.
But what if we just flip that completely on its head? What if a price hike for some basic, essential item actually forced people to buy more of it? I know, it sounds totally backwards, but that exact paradox is what defines this incredibly elusive product.
So this thing has a name. It's a Giffen good. And for it to exist, two very specific things have to be true. First, it has to be an inferior good, something you buy because you can't afford the better version. And second, it has to take up a huge chunk of your budget. So when its price goes up, it hits your wallet so hard you can't afford anything else, forcing you to buy even more of that one basic thing, just to get by.
For decades, if you opened any economics textbook, they'd all point to the exact same legendary example to prove this thing was real: the humble potato during the Great Irish Famine.
The story goes something like this. As potato prices skyrocketed during the famine, Ireland's poor were absolutely devastated. They couldn't afford that tiny bit of meat they might have bought once in a while. So, to get enough calories to survive, they had no choice but to spend what little money they had on, you guessed it, even more potatoes. It was a perfect, if tragic, textbook case.
Just one tiny problem with that perfect story. It was all just a theory. For more than a century and a half, nobody had ever actually checked the numbers. That is, until 2013, when some researchers at Cambridge University decided to do the detective work. They dug up original market records from the 1840s to finally put the legend to the test.
Okay, so take a look at this. This is the evidence. On the chart, up and down is the price, and left to right is how much was sold. Now, if the potato were a Giffen good, that black trend line would have to be sloping up. Higher price, higher quantity. But look at it. It's sloping down, clear as day. The data doesn't lie. As potatoes got more expensive, people bought less of them.
And this wasn't just a fluke. They checked year after year after year during the famine. Same result every single time. A negative correlation. The famous textbook example was officially busted. The potato was not our Loch Ness monster. But, and this is where the story gets really good, just when they thought the case was closed, they spotted something else. Something weird, hiding right there in the very same data. The potato theory was dead in the water. But the hunt for the real monster? It wasn't over. The researchers started sifting through the data for all the other foods sold at the market. Oats, barley, and one other item. Could it be lurking in there? And then, bam, they found it. Check out this chart. This is the data for bacon pigs. And that trend line, it's going up. A clear, positive relationship. As the price of bacon pigs went up, people actually bought more of them. They had finally captured the monster. So what the heck was going on here? Well, the study's author explains that it wasn't the poorest of the poor driving this. It was middle-income families. As food prices rose across the board, their budgets were just crushed. They could no longer afford expensive meat like beef, so they were forced to trade down to the cheapest meat they could get: bacon. Even as bacon got more expensive, it was still their best option.
Okay, this is a super important point. This whole Giffen thing is driven by necessity, by having no other choice. And that makes it the total opposite of another kind of product that also gets more popular when it's expensive.
So let's break this down. On one side, you've got your Giffen good, like those bacon pigs. You buy more because you have to when your budget is squeezed. On the other side, you have what's called a Veblen good. This is your designer handbag, your fancy watch. You want it because it costs a fortune. The high price screams status. The bottom line is this: Giffen is about survival. Veblen is about swagger. Totally different worlds.
Now, true, textbook Giffen goods are, let's be honest, incredibly rare. But the psychology behind them, that feeling of your budget getting squeezed and having to make tough choices, oh yeah, we see that all the time, especially when inflation hits.
You definitely don't need to be in 1840s Ireland to know this feeling. When prices for gas and groceries start creeping up, your money just doesn't go as far, and you start doing that mental math, right? Sorting everything into wants versus needs.
And what does that look like in real life? Well, it probably sounds pretty familiar. We start buying the store brand instead of the name brand. We hit up discount stores more often. We stop eating out as much. It's the exact same trading down behavior we saw in Ireland, just adapted for our modern world. It's that Giffen psychology in action.
And that really brings us to a final thought. That wild upward sloping line on the graph for bacon pigs wasn't just data. It represented thousands of real families making really hard decisions about what they could and couldn't live without. So it makes you wonder, right? When you feel the pinch of rising prices, what becomes your modern-day bacon pig? How do you decide what's truly essential?